Never in history did you think, maybe you did, that the richest man in the world would be beefing and having it out for the president of the United States. Now, this is what's happening. Many of you have already been aware. Maybe you've watched other videos, you've seen it on the news, you've caught up, or maybe I am speaking to someone for the first time. You're like, what is going on? Right? So I want to talk about it today, but what I want to make a disclaimer about is I do not want to make this all about the beef and the drama. Our question is, as investors and also as just a citizen of the United States, if you're watching from around the world and you're looking down on us and you're like, what are y'all doing over there? Which some of y'all are. I want to make this about what do you do from here? A lot of questions then become, do I sell Tesla? Do I buy it? Do I buy up other stocks? Are we going into a recession? It gets into that fear-mongering panic mode. And as you see, what I have up right in front of you are the charts. So what I'm going to be doing is going over some levels on our respective stocks, giving you a sentiment of where we could head from here, and then what you should be aware of. So if we're good with that, give me a like, a subscribe, hit that notification bell. Thank you so much for all the support as of late. Comment down below any questions that you have. I do check the comments. Appreciate those that are using the affiliate links. I do appreciate it truly that you are supporting the channel. If you would like to join our Discord, we'd love to have you there inside of Leverage University, where we have all of our trading floor. If you're a thought leader, an entrepreneurial type person, if you want to grow yourself personally, spiritually, physically, mentally, and also financially with this skill set, we'd love to have you inside for a monthly fee. You can join weekly, you can cancel anytime, all those good things to have more of a strategic direction of where you want to go. And also, even if you're an experienced trader, we have experienced traders in here that just like to trade with people and also give ideas. We're not just trading as well. We do also have long-term share channels as well. So you see shares and leaps, things that you can buy long-term, hold, where our buy levels are. So we'd love to have you inside. So without further ado, let's go over what the beef is all about. All right. The beef law. If you did know or did not know, Elon had parted ways, and we thought it was going to just be a natural part of ways. And he goes back to running Tesla and SpaceX and his other ventures. And you go about, President Trump runs the country, right? Now, Elon or people in power are not just going to go out like that because they have nothing to lose. He's got billions of dollars, right? Worth billions of dollars, right? And can say whatever he wants, and he moves markets, right? Also, President Trump is the same way. So you have that power push and pull, right? From two individuals that have a say. Okay. So you can see here that overall President Trump has this new bill. Okay. And Elon doesn't agree with the bill. Now, I'm not going to go into the weeds of the bill, but overall, I do believe Elon believes that he's trying to look out for the American people. We don't know what's really going on, but it might have a little nuance in there that it's going to affect the electrical vehicle market in the forward thinking. And he's saying these things of it's going to put Americans into slavery. It's going to hit people into a recession harder than they think. And most people think that Trump is doing everything in his right mind to do it well for American citizens. Now, you can say whichever. I'm not here to talk politics, which way to believe, because really no one knows what's true or not, but the words are power, right? So we can see here him tweeting away the Trump tariffs will cause a recession in the second half of this year. We see here that they finally, Elon unfollowed the real Donald Trump. Trump still follows Elon, right? There were some other things that he was talking about, why the Epstein files aren't released, because maybe Trump is a part of them in some way and he's in those files. Right. It's very, very it's wild right now. It's absolutely wild. Now, we call this from an investor's point as a black swan event. OK, and let's get off of this stuff and nuance and go straight into the charts. And we can see here that SPY and QQQ were approaching all time highs. And anytime you're approaching big time levels in the market, I have SPY up here more specifically. You see here this resistance, a very key resistance of 600. If I mark it there, right, with that white line there, you see that 600 is a very key level that we needed to break above. I've been talking about it for the last couple of weeks, all through May. It's been trying to trend up there. And right when it gets to a pivotal level where people are like, man, thank you, we're back to all-time highs, and you buy the highs, we're trapped with what we call a black swan event. Now, you can search on my YouTube channel about black swan events. I've talked about them before. Right? It's essentially events that come out of nowhere, right? It's almost like it's planned, and maybe it is, but it's at that pivotal timing where the retail investor, more specifically, you and I, not big hedge funds or insider traders or whoever they are, you get trapped, right? It's called a bull trap. Now, you don't know when they're going to happen, but the longer you do this, you can kind of be a little bit more cautious. As I was saying in the previous video, please be careful up here at these highs. There are sellers stacked up, and when there's key levels that need to be broken, there's typically traps that are set. All of this is overhead, as you can, sellers, 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 and then you can see what stepped in right there again. All right. Now, Brian, are you fear mongering here? Are we going down from here? Whatnot. Okay. So if you watched my previous video, go watch those levels from yesterday. But if you didn't, that is okay. Today on the SPY, so I'll go over SPY and QQQ first, and then I'll go straight into the Tesla levels because I know that's what many people came here for, and some of your respective stocks. I talked about yesterday on SPY that we should pull back probably, and we want to hold some key levels. Ideally, we wanted to hold this 595 to 596 level. You can see right there that 595.43. And then ultimately, if we want to just round it off to a nice round even number, that 596. Okay. So this zone right here was that caution zone that you wanted to hold up today. Now, a key thing that happened before all of this nuance happened, Black Swan event, is that we were holding that level. Look at this candle here. The dark black area is when the market's open. So just for my newbies out there, the light gray area is our after hours or extended hours. So you can see here in this dark black area that the market opened today right here, pushed up a little bit, pulled back into that 593, bounced and started trending back up to 599. Okay, great. We're about to take off. We're about to take off. We're about to take off. 600. Nope. Trapped. Immediately pulls back, opens up a new 4-hour candle, and then just continues throughout the remainder of the afternoon. That is what we call not only a bull trap, it's what we call a Black Swan event, right? But it's also a very key technical level. Events, unexpected things happen at very key technical levels. So whether it's resistance and there's some type of event that just shoots it back down, if there's earnings and we're pushing up into earnings and it shoots us back down, if we're dropping and dropping and dropping and there's only one like positive news catalyst that shoots us back to highs. So the charts are where the money is made, and I implore you, right, to go check out some videos, join Leverage University, keep learning on your own, whatever you got to do, get yourself on these charts to understand. The more you're on them, the more you hear us talking about them, you can see what potentially will happen. You just don't know what will happen, right? So I'm not here, and any other investor that hopefully is teaching this or educating on this topic is not saying that they're mind readers or that we knew that this was going to happen. We're just reacting at the levels, but we have an idea of what potentially could happen at those levels. All right. So all in all, SPY, you want to mount back above 595 ultimately. So this is not a good sign that we failed this yellow level here. Okay. So if we come back tomorrow, we've got NFP, non-farm payrolls, our unemployment data, our jobs data that we'll be reporting 1 hour before the market opens. We want to see that mount back above 596. I'd want it a little bit higher now because we have dropped so drastically. So I'd want it to mount back above 596, right? And get and hold above there. And then we can continue back up and try to take out that 600, right? So that is what ideally as a bull you want to see happen, because you can see that we're holding on this trend line, but we have failed a key level of former resistance turn support. Okay, so we have looked above and failed. Look above, fail. Okay. Now, what do you need to be concerned on the downside, Brian? What if data doesn't come in good, or if people get more fearful and they don't want to hold the upside into the weekend and we keep selling into the end of the week? Levels below that you want to watch on SPY is below this 590 ideally. Okay. We take out a new low below that 590 and we get below 590. You're looking into the next level, which is here, which is 586. Okay. So that is the level. I'm going to turn these red since those are now resistance. Okay. I'm going to turn this as our pivot point. Okay. That is the level of support that we need to hold up, 590 to 591. And we get underneath that 590, you've got room down into 586. That 586 is going to be very pivotal because it's been holding up multiple times, right? 590, 586, 586, 586, 586. But if we somehow lose that 586, right, we've got the next level down below, which is 583. Okay, 583. Okay, so these are supports down below where buyers are stacked in this 583 to 586. 590 to 591 is that pivotal hold zone for us to go back to the highs. All right, so we want to watch this area that we're in now. You can see after hours, we're sitting around that zone, right? 591, 592 in that zone. So it's kind of in that iffy sideways zone to choose a direction. Which way? Going up, or are we coming right back down? All right. So those are the two ideas you want to watch for. Ideally tomorrow to see which direction. Okay. Now, with this much selling pressure, my Leverage University members know, my clients know that I like trading the downside. I absolutely love red because it for scalping and day trading. I'm not going to say I short every stock, Brian. The stock market goes up 80%, 85, 90% of the time. Why would you be shorting against it? Right? It's because of days like this that the grind is great for long-term and even, trading the upside. But sometimes you can have a lot of fun if you understand how to trade the downside, because the more people panic, just think that, people get concerned and they keep buying the dip, and that dip is not going higher and it keeps getting knocked back down and knocked back down and knocked back down. Well, a lot of times it gets very drastic, right? Very quickly. Staircase up, elevator down is what we call it. So what I'm going to be looking for potentially is if we pop back up into this 595, 596 zone, something like this, and I see it getting stuck, I may be looking for that failure back underneath that 590, and we sell off tomorrow, potentially down to that 586. All right. So that's what I'll kind of be watching for tomorrow to see how we react back up or underneath these lows. If the after hours London session, Asian session tomorrow after hours can, see what it's doing here into the open. Okay. Then NFP reports. So that's really what my idea is going to be tomorrow, just because it was a big look above and fail, and this feud may not be over. Okay. So that's what I'll be having my eyes on, is what does it do back up into the zone, and see if there's a little bit more weakness potentially. Because I can control the stop loss back above 596, flip long, and go back up to the highs. Okay. QQQ, let's flip over here. I said yesterday on my video that QQQ is going to be, or the NASDAQ in general, is going to be our very key watch of what it does. And it is holding up still very nicely, right? I told folks yesterday to not be surprised if we get a deep pullback. We went up to 533 and we thought we were going to break out and squeeze up to that 535, 536 area. But then the feud came in, knocked us right back down. But guess where it knocked us right back down into? That level I talked about yesterday, which is 523. Right there in that previous highs turn into support. So this is a beautiful looking stair-stepping higher low chart, right? So you don't want to get too short or immediately have puts at open if you are a trader, okay? Because we want to react off these levels. Ideally, we're in support. My Leverage University members and those that have been watching the channel, what do you do at support? If you are in options, we are looking for buys, or we're looking for buyers to step up. Okay, we don't just enter calls, but we watch this area keenly to see if it breaks down, or do we bounce back up. Okay, so this is going to be a key level of support. So here's what it's going to look like in the morning. NFP comes out an hour before the market opens at 8:30 Eastern. If it's positive or has a positive reaction, we could pop back into that 527 to 528 area. Okay, where we kind of got rejected today. If you could see that pop right there into that previous level there. If we pop back up into that zone, I'm gonna be watching that to see if we reject, right, off open, okay, to see if there's more selling pressure. So that's one idea I'll be looking for, is if we get a positive reaction and we can react back up to these highs. Now it's got to get back above 530, because if you see over here, this is from that Trump scenario I talked about where he got blocked and then immediately the tariffs are right back on. So we're not out of the woods yet with this popping back up, because it's still got to clear above 531 is where that level needs to be. So it needs to be up here above that 531. Okay. That's where we're back off to the races, and you can confidently take calls back up, maybe back above 530 and keep your risk to reward tight. But 531 is still that level you really want to watch for. Okay. So I'll be watching 528 to 529, just slightly underneath 530 for a pop, and see how it reacts up there. And if it's heavy and we still have selling pressure, that's a good risk to reward. It looks something like this. Okay. Stop loss there. Keep it very tight. And you can target back to the lows like that. Okay. Now that's one trade idea that I like a lot better because it was so drastic. I don't want to chase it here. But what if we fall right below that level on QQQ? What if we get underneath this 521 and turn that 522.50 into a rejection? All right, then I'll be targeting and looking for that low. If you see here on the right hand side of my screen, back down to, as I said for SPY, the levels now are 515. I'd say 514, 515, right into that area right there. Okay, I'll be targeting somewhere right there. Now there's some levels in between. We got 517.80, something right there. So I'll be targeting those levels. And if you are a zero DTE type of person, it's going to be a Friday, right? If you want to target some of those big areas, you might want to put a little bit more time on your contracts if you're trying to take it all the way through these levels, because we're going to have an extreme poor NFP, in my opinion, for us to just sell all the way down into that, 512 again. It's possible, right? It's possible, right, to have another 10-point move down on the Qs and the NASDAQ, but we're still in an overall bullish market. But if this breaks underneath this 522.50, okay, we get underneath that 521 and then break underneath 520, you can target 517. It might get a little bit drastic down to that 515, 514. Okay. So react around this level right now. It's holding up as support. Okay. I will flip it if it falls underneath that, and then we can take it down. I might look at next week's contracts just to get the full value out of that move to the downside. All right. IWM holding up very well. Okay. Holding up very well. Let me go back to QQQ, because where's the fallout level? Okay. Where's the fallout level? This is higher lows, higher lows, higher lows. If we get back underneath that 518, I personally think it's going to get a little bit drastic. But the key level, if we fall underneath this 512, that's into the first gap. You're targeting that 508 again. And then at that point, personally, there might be a little buyer step back up. But yeah, I'd be a little bit more concerned if we fall all the way down into here, may get a little bounce. We can find a higher low, a lower high, and then take it down if things get ugly. Okay. Because that would have essentially flip the trend from higher lows to now lower highs. Okay. So we want to watch that. If we get some drasticness, it wants to fill this gap tomorrow. Be mindful, leave that runner in. If you do have runners, put some more time on your contract so you're not messing around with zero DTEs, running out of time. So, hey, just letting y'all know. All right, let's go to Tesla. IWM, I'll come back to that. Let's go to Tesla. Said it would be right to it. Tesla. Shaking my head. Here's why I'm shaking my head. here's our watch list from today. Okay. My watch list from today was pretty much spot on. And the only reason why my Tesla did not get filled, I was busy a little bit this morning, no excuse, right? But my Tesla contracts did not get filled. And I'll show you the entry essentially where it didn't get filled. Tried multiple times. I was trying to do a market order, wasn't getting filled, didn't like it anymore. I felt like I was chasing, and I was like, okay, I'll just wait on it, see if it'll pop back up. And I just took my eyes off of it. So just fumble the bag on that one. It happens sometimes. So I was sharing with the group today. Here are some of 6:31 a.m. I'm on the West Coast. So you see 1 minute into the market, I'm already trying to get filled. I already like it. And then I got busy, took my 305 puts, 302.5 puts, 300 puts, all trying to get filled. And I'm sitting here like, are you serious? So I'll show you my entry and why I liked it right off open. Literally I usually typically don't do this, but I saw it falling underneath previous day lows right here, 327. Okay. It was underneath that. And what I saw at the open was a little bit of a pop like that. I just wanted a little bit of a pop into that moving average right there. And that's where I was trying to get filled. And you see here, immediately fell right off open from 324 and fell $10. When I tell you, I'm looking at these contracts, and then I got busy during the morning and I saw this and I was like, okay. I'm going to find another entry. Maybe I can get it again back up a little bit higher in this 527. Nope. It just, that's when the feud started coming in with Trump, the tweets, and it just started to accelerate. So yeah, just underneath this 312 again would have been the second entry really, but just break of structure with that volume anywhere right here underneath that 320. And you can see the watch list. Just serious FOMO. Pop and reject this. I posted this at 6:21, about 10 minutes to the market. Pop and reject 325 to 326 for rejection. Fall underneath 320, has room to 310 and lower in the gap fill for 300. Y'all see the planning into the execution, and then the execution was fumbled. I did catch some other trades, some Google puts, and then also some Amazon puts off of 213. But this one right here, just contracts 2,000%. Like the contract I was trying to get filled right here. I'm just showing I need to vent for a second. So if y'all feel me, you feel me, give me it down below in the comments. If you feel me, 300 puts, 302.5 puts, 305 puts, all, I mean, that's a $10,000 a day right there. 2, 4, 6. Yeah, just say $6,000 to $7,000 a day. Okay. So wild. Just one contract went 5,000%. So you're talking about $100 going to 2,000, $80 going to 2,000, trying to get filled, took my eyes off of it, just ran without me. So now for my newbies or my people that are like, man, I keep hearing about Tesla. Should I enter puts tomorrow? Is there more room? Now here's the question. Where do you go from here with Tesla? After a big move like this, okay, I always tell folks in general that there is momentum in one direction underneath this daily 20 moving average that I have right here. You see how it accelerated from this head and shoulders, fell underneath this previous last line of defense right there, which was 320 to 325, fell underneath that. And then there was a little bit of defense here, maybe at 310. That was a no-go. So it just fell all the way through that 312. Okay. So now from here, what you need to happen if you want to take it lower, which there's some more room lower, right? I don't think this weekly candle is really done yet. I really think personally it wants down into this 255 and 260 level potentially, right? Because I don't think the feud is done, but you got to be careful down here. It's because now you're approaching some key levels of previous resistance that now become support. So if you want the best risk to reward on Tesla, you want to see a fail below the previous low of the previous day. That would be the easiest trade. There's not much room left necessarily, but you could get a potentially nice, 15 to 10 point move if it fails back underneath this 280 and then back underneath 273. Okay. Falls underneath that 273. You see 270 underneath 270. You can get aggressive, targeting a 10-point move down in that 260, 265. Okay. But at this point, look at the RSI on Tesla. Okay. Relative strength index on Tesla, which shows us overbought and oversold levels. Okay. You see here on Tesla, we're at extremely oversold levels. Why is it doing this? Look at this. We reached 12 on the RSI on a 1 hour time frame. So there will be a rebound on Tesla, and you can maybe look at that rebound all the way back up into 300. If we capture 300, we could rebound back to 310, and it will essentially be a short squeeze and buyers stepping back in and say, hey, I believe this was a fluke. Black Swan squeezes back up and Elon will save the day. Okay. So if you're trading it back to the upside, you can take some scalps back to the upside, but just know that there's still some selling pressure on Tesla, and you want to be mindful of where you're taking it. So 300 would be the first target. Above 300, you can target that 312, and then final target would be back up into that drop area, which would be right here around 312 there. Okay. We recapture 312, get about mount above 320, and then you're back up right into that 327. Okay. So it could recover all the gains depending on how the market wants to move. So be mindful of Tesla down in here. The lower it falls is technically in a support zone, and you do not want to short into this 265 to 270 zone. You want to be very careful up here. You want to short back up here or trade calls back up for a little short squeeze, recovery, rebound with an oversold RSI. Okay. So risk to reward puts back up at the top or break below, or find a higher low here, break back above 290, get to 300. You can target that squeeze back up to the upside. Okay. So be careful down here. I know, I have various different types of people that watch the videos, so I know that you may be hearing different things. Just be careful down here in the lows of shorting it anymore, at least for the short term, for tomorrow. Okay. Let's see. NVIDIA, hey, it's looking a little double topish. Okay. Looking a little bit double topish. Remember, our key level is 137. Okay. I'll push it down a little bit into 136.50, but that is the bottom end level that, NVIDIA needs to hold. So you want to watch this area, mark it on your charts, is if NVIDIA is above 137, that is technically still bullish. Okay. That is simply just a pullback into a higher low, and we could rebound and buyers could step back in right here and shoot us back to the highs. Okay. So NVIDIA will get more concerning, okay, because this is heavy up here at 143, double topish right now. If we fail back below 136, if we get back below 136, again, if QQQ gets underneath that, you want to correlate those together underneath that 121 level. Underneath there, you see 135. It starts staying underneath 137. We can target potentially that 133 and that full gap fill at 131 and into 130. It'll look something like that. Okay. So watch this key area of 136. If we see it hold and you are a bull, right, and you want to trade it back to the upside, it falls down to there. You want to squeeze it back up, back into 140 test and back into 141 test. Here's our bullish case. Falls down into here, reacts, and then squeeze. Something like that. Okay. Very similar to what it did here. You see that pullback, bounce, higher low, squeeze. Okay. So that is the opportunity for my NVIDIA bulls. If we see some bullish momentum and if data is good, we may have AVGO on our side as well. Let's go into that, as AVGO did have earnings and it pulled back. Okay. So AVGO had pretty decent earnings here. It pulled back into this 250 zone, our previous highs. Okay. If you see there, previous highs right there at 250, 249 area. Okay. and we're right in that zone. It's starting to get some reaction after hours where it's starting to react and getting some buying after hours here. Okay. So on a lower time frame, we can see that the RSI is a little bit overdone on an hourly. Okay. And AVGO is one of the strongest, if not the strongest, semiconductor at the current moment time. Okay. So if we see it holding back above that 151, holding 151, we can get that squeeze back up into potentially recovering this full move, targeting that 260 area. Okay. Targeting that 255, 260 area again. Okay. Those will be my targets: 257, 255. And then finally that 259, 260 area. Okay. So there's our pivot point right there, which will be 252.50. 252.50 would be kind of that pivot reclaim area. If we get back above there, I could see some squeezing action back up to the upside if the market is holding strong, if SPY and QQQ are holding strong. So this could be a nice play tomorrow, post earnings reversal back to the upside if the market is holding strong and if we get some recovery. All right. So watch that tomorrow with AVGO, and then you could coincide if you're not comfortable trading AVGO, you could look at NVIDIA back to the upside, targeting that 140, 141 again, trying to retest the highs. Okay. Let's see here. I'm going to go into Apple. Apple has relative weakness compared to the market. Okay. So Apple's at a very pivotal point here. You see it got knocked back down, look up, fail above that 206 level, just could not get there above that 207, which would have cleared, and it forms and still forming lower highs. All right. So Apple is essentially having a lot of heavy pressure rolling over here. Right. And it could have one of those drastic downside moves targeting back into that 195 and then 193 level if it gets underneath 199. If we see Apple underneath that 200 level, you can see what happens to it when it gets underneath that level. Right here is a good example. Underneath it, 198, market's weak, falls down to that 193, 195 area. Okay. So does have some gap to fill down here. I'll be looking out for Apple if the market does get weak and it has a good volume, good trading opportunity to the downside. All right. In the short term. Now, for my bulls, my long-term bulls, which everyone should be in a lot of Mag 7, a lot of stocks, if you want to just wait and let this dust settle and let these things fall, and if we have some more downside potential, right? Get ready for earnings season coming up at the end of July into August for the next tech earnings. So these could be good dip buying opportunities if you don't know how to trade the downside or you're not comfortable with it, with this weakness. Just wait and let the thing pull back, let the market pull back to where it wants to pull back to. All right. Let it settle in, get your dollar cost averaging, get your longer term calls. If you are a bigger player and you want those longer dated call options, right, get those ready to go. All right. So there's Apple. I like it, but now with this weakness a little bit, I kind of just wanted to fall down into this 193 so we can get potentially some more buying action leading into their event next week. All right. Amazon. I traded Amazon today, told the community about that, trade ideas, watching Amazon approaching this top end of resistance. You can see right there, Amazon approaching that 213 level where there was some heavy sellers stepping in. Also, here's the idea, right? I gave the idea right up in that 213, starters at 212. It pushed up into that 213, got an entry. And then you can see right there how it played out. Now, did it accelerate a little bit more than expected? Yes, because of the Trump feud. But once it fell below that 210 level, I got really excited because it was looking really good. Okay, so pretty much top ticked the entry for Amazon. And I left some runners in. And you can see here on the wins channel, I did leave a runner in on Amazon and it went 100+%. Okay, so awesome job there. Google, let's go into Google. All right. Google did what I wanted to do off of this 166 level, right? There's buyers trying to get this thing to rotate back up to the top end of 175, but having a tough time. There's a lot of pressure. Again, very similar to Apple, still forming lower highs, right? Got a rejected from that 170, 80 level underneath 171. Now, Google could get a squeeze here if the market builds some strength, only because there's consistency down here in this 166, 167 level, that if Google can get above that 171, right, it can get some squeeze action back targeting that 174 level. Okay. More failures. You could look at this as kind of a inverse head and shoulders kind of idea potentially. So I'd be very mindful of Google right in this zone above 166. And also there's a daily 20 sitting right here at 166. Okay. That daily 20 moving average, it is above it still. This could be just a pullback. Something comes out positive. We rotate back up. But if it fails back underneath this 165, that's where I'll get concerned again. If the market pulls back, then I can target 162. And then potentially if it gets any weaker, right, and it stays underneath that 164, then we got some gap fills down below. Okay. But 162 would be my low end of Google for it right now. If we do get weakness underneath there. Okay. So there's my break point right there, which would be underneath 165. If it falls underneath the 166, I'll get interested. 165 is kind of my break level. You can see what it did last time. It got underneath that yellow line, fell down into that 155. Now that was pretty drastic from some news, but you can see how it gets weak underneath there. All right. Palantir, let's go into that. This is an interesting one here. Everyone's a new favorite from Palantir. And it did fail back below that 125 level that I wanted it to really hold above. So we got to reclaim that 125 level. That's the previous high. And you see there that we looked above, fell back below. That's not what you want to see from a short-term bull perspective. Long-term, great. We're probably going to 150, 200, 300, whatever your price target is in the long term. But for the short term, we could have a deeper pullback with this failure back below 125. So we need to, for my short-term bulls, people that are in shorter-term call options, or you're like, man, do I take profits right here? Like I kind of bought kind of high. You want to see a push back above that 125, hold, and then we can go. That would be what we call a reclaim. Okay. So back above that previous high, maybe you just mark on your charts 126, back above Palantir 126, right? I can get bullish again to retest the highs. But like I said, that daily 20 is very important, very pivotal. You can see how I accelerated below that. Now I've got to turn this into a resistance again. Okay. This is now again a resistance zone. So what I'll be watching for tomorrow on Palantir, you can see these after hours here, is does Palantir reclaim that area, or do we reject it? Previous supports turn into resistances. So if I see it push back into here, fail right off of it, then Palantir could be targeting some lower end levels where we do have some gap fills down below to 112, 115, 110. Mark those areas on your charts right there, 115, then 110. There's a little bit of a level in between at 112 right there. So this whole zone is where Palantir would probably try to get back to if there's weakness anymore. Okay. So watch out for that on Palantir. You want to see it get back above 126. If it does not, be very mindful. That's a very heavy area. As you can see, a lot of action right there. 125 finally broke above. Now we fell back below. We got to see what it does on Palantir. Okay. In the short term, I told folks that I really like Palantir retesting this 97. That would be a beautiful retest level. The further a stock goes up, the deeper the pullback I want for entry. Okay. The further the further the stock goes up and it never retests key levels back below, just straight up, straight down, right? Back to retest those key support zones. Do not get caught chasing dollar cost average long term, but not get caught chasing. All right, let's wrap this up here. Coinbase, key watch. This looks almost identical to Tesla. Okay, for my crypto folks, Coinbase is now added to the S&P 500. We've now added it to my main watch. It moves very nicely now. But you want to see what this does right here at this pivotal zone. If I go back to Tesla, you want to see what that looks like. Look at that yellow zone. I'll get rid of this white line, get rid of this white line. Do you see that 326 on Tesla right there? And then there was gaps below straight down. Look at Coinbase. If we can't hold that 240, you see it underneath 240 into maybe turn your alerts on at 238 just to be more confident. We see it underneath 238, right? We could be targeting 230. And if it gets underneath 230, you've got a gap fill. All right. This almost looks identical to Tesla, and then straight down, straight up, head and shoulders, right shoulder, straight down, back to that neckline, which will be targeting roughly around the top of that neckline, which would be somewhere around 210. All right. 210 to 215. All right. So look for that tomorrow. I'm not sure if it'll do it in one day like Tesla or whatnot, but anytime there's a gap to the downside and we got some aggression coming down off the highs. Now, if it does hold this and bounces, off of it, then I'll be a little bit more patient. But right now, if you see this, it is forming some lower highs. Okay. So another lower high would be somewhere back into that 250 area. Okay. Back in that 250 area, if it can pop back up into there and I see some weakness, I'll be looking for that potentially. All right. That'd be ideal because you see some reaction right there at 250. That'd be a better 249, 250, or right here at this 245, or fail below. You see it got underneath that 238. If we see it fail below, got room down to 231, and then below that full gap fill right here. All right. So keep an eye out, turn your alerts on Coinbase. It will be fast if the market does get weak, specifically SPY more, if that gets underneath that 590 level. All right. Well, everybody, as always, my videos are a little bit more extensive to give levels, to give ideas. I start speeding up my speech just a little bit because I know it can be extensive, but I want to make sure that my experienced folks and my intermediate folks understand so you can get the levels very quickly. For my newbies, my beginners, please check out some of the videos on the channel about how to read a stock chart, what is a Black Swan event. Start looking at the educational videos. If you need more support, you can join Leverage University. We're inside. I did a whole masterclass this afternoon for my members. I'm just teaching them little nuances about how to trade. Oops, I forgot to show this one last one. Little bonus for those who have stayed throughout the whole video. Lululemon, okay? Lululemon had pretty decent earnings, but their guidance was off. This is going to be extremely oversold at the open. Extremely oversold. You can see this RSI is already down here in the single digits. If it can stay down here, we could get a short squeeze back up to about potentially 270, right? That's what I'll be targeting. Potentially, if it can hold and reclaim this, kind of hold in this 250 zone, maybe fall a little bit underneath 250, reclaim it. I'd be looking for a little short squeeze back up to 270. Okay. Now, Lululemon has done some crazy things. The deeper it goes, I mean, we could target 280 and potentially 290. All right. So if I do a Fibonacci retracement from the highs to the lows, okay, targeting that 272 and then targeting that 286, 290 area. Potentially if Lululemon gets squeezy back to the upside. Hopefully it stays down here because I personally love if it can get some momentum or just a little short squeeze back up. I'm going to be looking for calls at open on Lululemon. Okay. Looking for calls at open on Lululemon if it can kind of get some momentum and go and reclaim and get squeezy. All right. This is a bigger player. The contract's a little bit pricey. If you do trade this on your own and you're not inside of a community, be mindful. You want to let that implied volatility cool off. That essentially means let these contracts cool off. Do not swipe up if you're on Robinhood or get in immediately right away because you're going to get a bad fill price. You want to wait for these contracts to cool off or go further out potentially and have less IV on the contracts. Okay. So call options targeting that 280, 290, potentially 300 for a rebound over the next couple of weeks. So watch for Lululemon. I think it's a little bit drastic, but their guidance is off. So I want to be mindful of where they're headed. All right. They do have some supports a little bit lower down at that 240 level there. Okay. All right. Well, thank y'all so much. There's a little bonus there. Good luck tomorrow. If you're trading on your own, if these videos help you, please give them a like, subscribe, notification bell, comment, whatever it is. If there's anything that you would like to see, if you'd like to do more educational videos or anything like that, let me know that as well. Trade safe, be safe, protect your profits. Have a great weekend if I don't see you. And I'll see y'all on Stock Sermon Sundays every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Sunday evenings. All right, talk to you soon. Bye-bye.